All right, so we're recording now. And welcome to the webinar, everybody. Again, my name is Mike Brooks, and I'm here with Frank DeBenedetto, founder and CEO of Audit, and as well as Two River Technology Group. And he's going to be, you should see his screen right now, Two River Technology Group inside of Audit. That's his MSP. And who better to share their knowledge of how to use Audit for in their MSP than an MSP? So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Welcome, welcome. And how are you doing today, Frank?
I am doing well. Looking forward to a nice long weekend with a holiday coming up. And I know we've had a lot of requests for a QBR type training. While we initially have been doing a lot of webinars around using this to get more business, I think that we've got an equal number of people out there that are looking for something to use in their QBRs.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to oblige the many requests that we've had to kind of show people how I use it at Two River Tech for my quarterly business reviews.
Right, and I want to kind of set that up for everybody. So, as a person who kind of is probably the first person you hear from, myself, when you sign up for a trial, my goal as the brand evangelist, person who is out there trying to convince people to try this great product out, my job is to get you using it fast. And I feel, and Frank, I'll obviously, you can chime in here, but I feel that the quickest way to learn how to use Audit is in a QBR. And I've talked about this a lot. If I've met you in person, I've talked to you about this. I think, the name of the system is Audit Sales Presentation System. And this is the most amazing product you're ever going to put in front of a prospect to convert them into a client. You're going to take the data you have and you're going to turn it into a polished sales presentation that really sells for you. It's simple. It's easy for them to understand. And that, as a salesperson, that is so important to understand and to get your arms around, that you have to keep it simple for them. Otherwise, you're just a commodity to them. And the simpler you can make it, the more emotional you can make it, the easier you're going to get the sale. So that's where Audit is an amazing tool for that. But the other half of Audit is using it in your QBRs. And if you're not doing QBRs, hopefully you read my blog post. I put a blog post out about that the other day, and go and check that out on the Audit website, because if you're not doing QBRs, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And not to mention, if you're not talking to your clients regularly, you're risking losing those clients. So Audit's a great tool for showing your clients where they are, what you've achieved, and some magic happens. And this is from talking to our clients who do this in QBRs, is you may have been trying to sell something to your client for a year, and they keep telling you no. You talk to them every few months, you say, you really need this, but they say no. And you explain to them why, and they don't understand, they say no. And then all of a sudden you do a QBR and they go, why is that block red? And you go, well, thank you for asking, because you've been telling me no for a year. And now they pull the trigger on it and they buy it, they upsell, or they cross sell because of the QBR. And you will, as an MSP, generate more dollars and more value with your current clients than ever before by using Audit. So that's number one. Number two is a great way to practice, right? Instead of trying to do your first audit on a sales presentation where you really want to impress that prospect, you don't know that prospect, try it on somebody you like first, that likes you, that that you have a rapport with. Much easier to get to know Audit, to learn the system by doing it on a current client. So jump in there, Frank, and talk about that a little if you could.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've heard from some people is they love the system, they love the reports, they can't wait to use it, they just don't have somebody to run an audit on, they don't have a prospect yet. So they kind of stall in getting going with the system, and then they sort of forget about it. And one of the things that we realized was that, well, everybody's got clients, right? I mean, you have to have at least one client, I would think, if you're even entertaining using this product. So for me, I look back and anything that, not many bad things have happened to me in business, but anything that was bad, usually with a client, usually happened because I didn't do frequent enough quarterly business reviews, right? So I'm so focused on growing our business, bringing in new clients, and sometimes I forget about the existing ones that are paying us, pretty good sums of money, And if we're not doing quarterly business reviews, then that's an opportunity for someone else to get their foot in there. Maybe I don't know the client is unhappy, they just haven't said something, and every once in a while, in the past, we'd find out a client's leaving us, and then all of a sudden we get real religious about meeting with them and asking them what happened, and they kind of tell us all the things we should have known about. So I realized doing frequent quarterly business reviews is a must. I think everybody knows they should do it. It's like exercise, but we don't all do it. And for me, to your point, Mike, I would go in there and I would talk about different things. It was more or less like a social visit. I go in, hey, how are things? I used to bring ticket reports, because I was told, I forget who, some training that I had received. Hey, you need to go in there and you need to show them all the stuff that you're doing and bring all the ticket reports in. And I don't know, I started to feel like maybe my clients were the only ones that didn't care about that stuff, right? I would, show them a big, almost a binder full of all the stuff that we did over the quarter. And they're just like, hey, I'm not gonna look through this. We know you guys are doing stuff. So then I might talk about some products. Maybe I'd say something like, hey, you should really take a look at email encryption. Or we partnered with OpenDNS, and they have this product called Umbrella. It's really awesome. It's going to help keep the ransomware out of your offices. And they might say, not right now, not interested. And then what would happen is I would completely forget about repitching that to them. So like my upsells were basically mention it once and probably never go after it again because they told me, no, not right now, and I just didn't have a good way to track it. And I started to feel like, maybe 6 months later or a year later, something would happen at the client's office. And then I'd say, well, remember I told you about Umbrella? And they'd say, no. I'd say, well, if you had, I would have blocked this. And then they would look at me annoyed and think like, all right, well, I don't remember that conversation, but I guess we need it now. And I started to feel like I was only selling things to existing clients when something bad happened or they asked me for it instead of being proactive. So I knew there had to be a better way. And when we developed Audit, which was really around doing initially, doing technical assessments for prospects, I started using it on my existing clients. And I realized this is a great way to keep in front of them quarter by quarter, and things that maybe they said that they didn't want to do. Well, the next quarter you show up, and just like you said, they might see a red or yellow box, and then you have an opportunity to talk about it again, and you'd be surprised how that emotional sale works. Eventually, it's kind of like they want to buy a green box. Like, how much does that get this box green? Oh yeah, that's the Umbrella service. Well, that's $100 a month. All right, yeah, let's do that now. And so I started to sell things, which is good for me, but I also was doing what's good for the clients, right? I'm protecting them and getting them to use the products and services that I know are good for them in their business.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's there's nothing replaces hearing it from you, because you have experience doing it, and I love the fact that you're going to show this and demonstrate this, because I really think it's important. As a person who's in the selling field and marketing, I can tell you that the worst thing you can do is just not talk to your clients. And this this using Audit on the Qbr'S gives you a really great tool to show your clients all the great things you're doing for them, and to show them how proactive you are with them, and not wait until that moment when catastrophe strikes. Because once you have, it's like trying to sell a new prospect. If you're talking to a prospect, and a good sales technique will tell you, talk about the objection before it becomes an objection, if you can. The same thing with a QBR, with a current client. Once you have a problem, it's a problem. If you can hit something before it becomes a problem, now you're the hero. So
right.
Really important. So Frank, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you to drive here and do this presentation. And I'll let everybody know, please, if you have questions, you're confused by anything, just stop us, pop a question in the box. I'm watching it, and I'll be happy to interrupt Frank and get him to answer your question live for you here. So
cool. Thanks, Mike. So we're not going to spend any time really on the setup of the system. That's pretty simple, but we're going to skip through that. We're also going to assume that you've already got some audit templates set up. I'll show you briefly what one of mine looks like, and then I'm gonna take you from really start to finish on doing a QBR for an existing client. I'm not going to use a real client name, but we're going to go through every box, 27 of them. We're going to generate the report, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I present that to give you an idea of how you can use this right away. Okay, so let's go in here. So I'm already logged into the system. Obviously, it's web-based. I've got templates that are already set up. I've created one called Two River Cloud with Telecom, and then I've got a few others in here. We're just going to use that one, and then we'll take it from there. So there's one down here called Managed Services without Telecom. So maybe you just have a traditional client. But let's go in here from the beginning and just kind of work our way through it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the Oddity screen, and I'm going to create a new Oddity. So this is just going to simply represent one of my existing clients. So we're going to just call them QBR client 1, right? Joe client, and J client at qbr1.com. Right, there we go. I'm going to select them as a client in the drop-down box. They're not a prospect, and I'm going to pick the template, right? So this just basically applies the initial grouping of 27 audit items to this particular client. We're going to make some modifications to it, so I don't want you to get too concerned that, oh, if I don't have a template set up, how do I do it? And if I pick a template, what if I want to make some changes? So I'm going to show you that, the flexibility of the system here. So we'll pick our TRTG Cloud Services with Telecom, and I simply select Create Audit. And the first thing that's going to do now is it's going to pop us now into an audit trail. Because one of the things we wanted to do with the system here, Mike, if you remember, we talked about the design in the beginning, was we wanted to have a full trail from the first time you did an audit with a client or a prospect all the way on up through those QBRs, right? And then we're working on some really cool reporting that allow you to show trending with those existing clients. Also, I'll throw in right now that I'm working with our developer on a QBR calendar. Some really cool stuff coming. It's one of the things I struggled with, is always trying to make sure that I did the quarterly business reviews regularly enough. Now, I do mine every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So I do 2 a week. And when I get done with one meeting, I usually say, let's pick the next one for the next quarter. And I do a pretty good job at it, but I always kind of wish I had a way to kind of zoom out, maybe see all my quarterly business reviews for a quarter or focused on the particular company. That's not in here yet, but that is coming. Because this is the first audit, and again, we're kind of treating this like maybe somebody who's just purchased the system and now they're going to use this for the first time on an existing client. It becomes a baseline audit, right? So it doesn't matter that it's not a prospect, it can be an existing client. The thumbnail shows that it's empty, it shows it's incomplete, there's no score. I'm going to just pull this up real quick just to point out that if this was a prospect, you could simply click on Fact Finder, and this is going to generate a fact finder for you to use to take to the client's office and start gathering that data up. Now, I bring this with me in like the first meeting with a prospect, and I start talking to them about pain points and whatnot. Then I usually recommend that we do an audit. I try to sell it, and then it'll come back, and and then we'll do more of the technical data gathering. But here's the beauty of a quarterly business review, and why we were really excited to kind of show you guys this today in terms of using the system, is that you don't need to do any data gathering, right? This is your actual client already. So we don't have to go on site and run any data collection tools like Rapid Fire or maybe the RMM tools, because you pretty much already have all the information available to you. So this is probably the fastest audit you'll ever do, is on an existing client. So let's go in and let's pretend it's time to actually do the audit. So what I'm going to do now is under Actions, I'm going to go in and click on Edit, and that's going to take us actually into the audit screen. And this is where we will start working through the different audit areas. I usually keep the description here. In this case, I'm going to change it just slightly. So I'm going to call plan description. I'm going to say Q2 QBR for QBR client 1, right? So this way, if we create additional quarterly business reviews, what I do is I just come in here and I change the quarter, and I also put the year in there too. So it's Q2 2017 QBR for client 1. I like to put in the what they're spending. Now, because this is a client, not a prospect, I can usually nail it. I don't have to have a range, so we can use the same start and end amount. So we'll pretend that this client's paying me $2,200 per month right now. Oops. So there we go. And I'm going to leave telecom off of here right now. In the interest of time, I'm going to actually suppress the telecom quadrant, and we're not going to audit that. All right. So we've got that information plopped in the top. The description is now there. That's our IT monthly expense. They're paying us $2,200 a month. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to actually disable the telecom quadrant. I don't want to focus on that today. I actually want to focus on the 3 quadrants that feed our 27-point IT audit. So I'm going to hit disable. That's just simply going to gray out that one box. I know, Mike, we get a bunch of questions about the ability to totally customize all these things. Again, we'll let everybody on the call in on a little secret. We are working on a audit platform. So whereas this we see as a tool with some structure and rigidity to it, this is great for most people. The platform is going to allow you to customize everything. So you could take where it says infrastructure, you can change it to be whatever you want. All the audit items will become your own. So think of it like Microsoft Access. When you kind of go in there, it's not Act, right, where you can start using it from day one like this. That platform would be more like Access. It's a tool or a platform, I should say, that will allow you to go in and you can make all the changes. Here, we're going to work within the rigidity of the existing system. So we've got our 27 points that we want to maybe hit on in the quarterly business review. 9 under infrastructure, 9 under security, and 9 under managed support and services. Now, I realize, that there could be hundreds of things that you might want to audit in a QBR. But what are we really trying to do, Mike? In the quarterly business review, like we're trying to upsell and cross-sell, right? We want to get things in front of them. And, I'm not saying it from the point where, hey, we're just trying to sell frivolous items to make money, right? These are obviously things that are good for your client, right? If you know that they should be using OpenDNS because it's going to be great to add another layer of security, we would want to continue to kind of market that or show them the value there. So let's go in here. Let's start with infrastructure. So first thing we would do is hit summary statements, and this is where we're going to come up with the bottom line. If any of you guys have seen me do some of the webinars or some of the seminars that I've done, we kind of talked about the summary statements as being like a tweet, right? We're forcing you to be simple here. And I know as a tech, because I am one of them, right? I have a mechanical engineering degree. I did not start this business because I was a great salesperson and I didn't hire a bunch of techs. I was the tech. So I think that model is what's prevalent out there in the MSP world. A lot of us are techies at heart. Selling is what we do to survive, but a lot of us are not great salespeople. My tendency is to want to be very wordy. I'm probably wordy on this webinar right now, but I realized that was killing my sales. When I would go into my prospects, especially, and sometimes clients, I could talk and talk and talk, and they're smiling because they're being nice to me. They don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not making sales because of it. I'm just wearing them down. So while this feels weird, it feels weird to take 25 pages of data that you've gathered from something and to boil it down to a summary statement. But I promise you it works. And I know it works because it worked for me, and now we get testimonials like every week from people who said, it felt so weird to just shorten this stuff up, and I can't believe it worked. And it's proving that your clients will understand bottom lines. They already trust you. You're their trusted IT advisor, right? They trust that you know a lot more than they do. They don't want to know everything you know. They want to just know, like, what should we be doing? Where are we today, right? So with
Frank,
that said,
can I ask you a question as long as you're at this?
Yeah.
This is a perfect chance to ask you a curveball question. And this is our favorite question. We get it all the time, and I know why people are asking it, but I want to have a chance for us to talk about it. And I think the people that are on this webinar are, I see a lot of names that I recognize. People are long time users, and that don't necessarily care about this question. But I think it's one that we get maybe every time we talk to somebody is, I've got all this data that I did I use rapid fire tools. Why can't I just import the data into
Yeah, it's a great question. And Believe me, I'm all for, the easiest way to get something done. But I can't find or think of any scenario that it would take pages and pages of data that need to be analyzed by, us, the MSP, and to have it automatically come up with like a tweet for you, right? That's where we come in. That's the value of us as MSPs. If this system took all that data and gave the bottom line automatically, then that would cut the MSP out. We would just sell this straight to the small businesses, right? So it's not going to interpret all that data. That's where you come in, right? But your clients will appreciate the fact that you bottom lined it for them. And for years I remember my clients saying to me, "What's the bottom line?" And I thought, wow, I just spoke for 5 minutes. They just want the bottom line. And then I'd have to really think about it, and I'd give them a bottom line. So that's what we're forcing you to do here, right? You look through all that stuff that's real technical and tons of pages, and you come up with a bottom line here. So I hope I answered your question for you.
Yeah, I think so. And everybody listening, feel free, if you have asked us this question, or if you have been wondering this, throw your thoughts in the question box. We like to make this a little more interactive than the usual. Um, did you have that question? Do you still have that question? What other question would you ask as you heard Frank just answer that? I'm curious. So please feel free to jump in, everybody.
Cool. So if you've used this system before, real quick, you can move all this stuff around, right? So if you decide, hey, I want disaster recovery plan on the top right, move it around, whatever makes you happy here. It's fully flexible, change things up. If you want to change the weighting, maybe you think, well, disaster recovery plan's a 2, relatively speaking, and land redundancy is a 4. You can change whatever you want. In this particular case, I want to sell a Meraki access point to this client, right? They don't have one, and I know that they should. So I've got managed wireless over here. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take disaster recovery plan off here. I don't really need to talk about that in my QBR. The client's probably not going to want to do that. But I want to pull in managed wireless and put that over here. And I'm going to say that's like a 3. So I'm going to make that change. I'm just kind of looking around here and seeing what else I'd like to change. I think that's good. All right, so let's jump in here. So I'm going to enter a summary statement now on servers, right? So this is my client. I know what server or servers they have. I know what the state of this is. I shouldn't probably have to run any tools against it. If I want to, and I want to supplement my audit report with that, I say go for it. I tend to not do that. I don't think the client looks at it. I think they already realize that we're doing stuff for them. They don't need to see a binder full of pages, but either way. And now I've got some summary statements in here. Now, a few of these are some that we pre-fill in the system, and 1 or 2 of these might be ones that I've added myself over time. As a reminder, you always have the 3 stock answers of satisfactory, which is green, needs improvement, which is yellow, and requires immediate attention, which is red. Again, the system, we're working off a scoring system, right? And satisfactory would be 100, red would be 0, and needs improvement would be a 50, right? And then we're weighting that for you here. So the words and the colors don't matter as much to the system. That's what we're using to generate the score. However, to your client, the words matter and the color matters because that's what's going to get them to take action and to do something here. So I recommend that you come up with statements that are generic enough that you could reuse them because you can speed your way through your answers, especially as you start doing more and more QBRs. You start realizing that more and more of your clients fall into the same answers. And so it becomes quicker to do it after the first few that you've populated here. So in my case, what I'm going to say is, hey, this is my client. Their server is within 5 years old. It's under warranty, running a supported operating system. We're good. That's green. And in my QBR, when we look at the report, you'll see I go quickly through the greens, right? I'm not going to spend 20 minutes telling them that the server's okay, right? We're going to focus on the red and yellow, and that's where they want to focus too. And that's where your upsell opportunities come from, right? Workstations. Now, I do something slightly different for the workstations because I just love their product. This is a company called Warranty Master. I think they do a great job. I think IT Glue bought them, not sure. All I know is I use them, very economical. So we use LabTech. LabTech feeds this system and it gathers up all the information. So what I like to do we'll just pick one of my clients here, Beneflex. What I like to do is print the report, and I bring this with me as a supplemental component. We have nothing to do with Warranty Master, so I'm happy to refer them, but we have no stake in what they do. However, I think the reports are pretty cool. I could take this report, right? I can look at this and say, all right, most of these computers are out of warranty, right? And there's a few that are in warranty right now, Windows 10. There's no XP, that's good. But there's cause for some concern, and I think I have an opportunity here, Mike. If you looked at this, right? I mean, I think you'll agree that I could make an argument maybe with this prospect that you got a lot of computers that are out of warranty. We should probably take a look at maybe replacing a few this year, right? So maybe I have an opportunity to replace some of those. So based on this report, which of course is sourced from a data gathering tool, LabTech in this case, I'm going to go back to audit, and I'm going to say that workstations are within 5 years old, out of warranty, and run on a supported operating system. I'm going to pick that answer because that's going to be yellow, and it's going to give me an opportunity now when I'm sitting down for the QBR to pull this report out and to talk about that, right? So getting back to what you said, Mike, is there a way to take all this information and automatically come up with a summary statement? Not really, right? Because this is subjective, right? Somebody else using this system might say, whoa, wait a minute, Frank, you picked a yellow. I would say that's red. Almost every computer is out of warranty. That's terrible. So yeah, you know what? You're free to do that too. You can come in here and maybe you put a statement in and make it red.
Right. That's an important emphasis because every client has different needs. Every client has things that are more important to them, right? You're going to put a weight on this that may be different than the weight I have on my client, because maybe for your client, workstations they're phasing them out or whatever. They're coming up with something new. And for me, it's really, really important. That's a key thing. That's a 5 for me. For you, it's maybe a 2. So, and maybe it's yellow for you, maybe it's red for me. So that's an excellent point. And while I'm still talking, I'm not trying to filibuster you, but I have a couple questions that came in. Would you like to?
Yeah. Let's take a couple. Sure.
Okay. So Carlos is asking when you were talking about upgrading before to the new platform, when we complete that upgrade, are you going to allow for more custom? We're going to allow for more customization, but does that mean you can have more than 27 to 36 audit points?
That answer right now is no. We're still going to have it be for 36. The only thing I can tell you is that we initially piloted audit with boxes. Instead of having 3x3, which gives you the 9, and then of course with 4 quadrant gives you 36, we trialed this with 4x4, which was 16 in each. And what I could tell you is that was a lot, right? So it was a 48-point audit and then another 16 for, say, telecom. It's a lot of information. If you're going to sit down with a client, it takes, or even a prospect, it takes a long time. So we went back to the drawing board and looked at this, and overwhelmingly the feedback came in that people wanted it to be, a 9x9, I'm sorry, a 3x3 box for 9. So right now our intention is to leave the number of boxes, but make all the quadrants and all the individual audit items totally flexible, but still stay within the confines of the 36 different audit items.
Cool. And I have 2 questions from Todd. For the QBR, do you set all the currently green categories to a 5 weight to keep the overall score higher? That's question 1.
So, the beauty of the system here, again, it's flexible and you can do whatever you'd like. So there are a couple times where if I'm doing a QBR and there's some red and yellow and the score is a little bit lower than I had hoped it would be, and it's an existing client, and I don't want it to look too bad, I have changed the weighting a little bit to try to, just put a little bit more of a benefit on the Two River stuff, but that's up to you. I mean, that's why we put the weighting in there, so you kind of have the ability to move it a little bit. Once I finish this quadrant, Mike, remind me, and we'll change a couple numbers around, and we can see how it'll slightly alter the quadrant score for this.
Sure. And Todd also asks, I've created custom summary statements, but cannot edit or delete them once they are created. He says he makes lots of typos. And he wrote, I make lots of typos with typos. That's funny.
Yeah, I will show you as soon as I'm done with this quadrant. What I'll do is I'll hop out of this audit and I'll go into the area of the system where you can go in and directly edit the information that's in there, and I'll show you how you can make those changes. Right?
And last question, will the new system allow us to hide the telecom quadrants from the overview page? Currently, it always appears there even if you aren't using it.
Yes, we talked about that. We also talked about suppressing financial information from the reports for existing clients, because some people, when they're doing Qbr'S, they don't want to show the financial side of it at all. So we are going to have some flexibility in the report to eliminate some of the things, including the name telecommunications from there. We have to do something. I mean, it's going to be a blank area, right? Because it's 27 points, so that one quadrant is going to be just empty, but it won't say telecom on it.
Right. Cool. Well, continue on, Frank.
Okay, cool. Great. So let's go into business continuity here. I'm going to say, let's see, one of these answers. I'm not going to do any real freeform typing here in the interest of time. But we're going to give it a good one. We're going to say, hey, you know what? Business continuity is always on, and business can be conducted from remote alternate locations. We sell a lot of cloud, so in many cases that's what we're able to kind of say. Here's the example of wanting to upsell that managed wireless. When we started selling Meraki, I think about 2 years ago, and we kind of went through our client base, and we, in our quarterly business reviews, we were extolling the virtues of how much better that works than the Sonic points we had out there. And so in this case, maybe what we'd say is a web managed wireless access point is not in use, and the latest Wi-Fi standard is not 802.11ac. Let's pick that one. WAN redundancy. This is a big one too. For a lot of our clients, I shouldn't say a lot, for some of the clients now, we're in a good area of the country where we've got some good internet options. Usually there's like a Verizon Fios fiber option, and there's a Comcast or some sort of cable option. We're always telling our clients, listen, you really should consider a failover circuit. So in this case, let's kind of pretend that we're looking for it. And here's what I'm going to do. I actually am going to put in a custom statement here. So I'm going to say, let's say failover circuit is available, but has not been procured. How's that sound? All right, so I check my spelling here. Failover circuit is available, but has not been procured. And I'm going to say that I do want to show that in future pick lists. So I'm going to add the custom summary statement to the system. And I'll click on it. And then it'll pop it in there for me. And then if I was to go back now and look, I now see that that is available to me in the system as an option to be selected for another client, QBR. So we're going to make that one red. Regulatory compliance. We'll say, hey, the office is not subject to compliance. Now, again, maybe in your case, you don't even care about compliance for your client. Drag it off. Maybe you want to, make a point about cabling. Maybe their cabling is kind of shabby, and you've been after them to fix that up. Swap that in there. Backup disaster recovery. Let's jump into that one, and let's take a look. And we'll say, hey, there's no data stored locally, so there's no need for local backups of replication. Now, I know someone's probably going to say, wait a minute, you said there's a server. Let's not get too, attached to what the relationship with all these things. The point is we're just kind of going in here and filling in some answers as if it was a real client. Remote accessibility, we'll say, we have a cloud-based solution. That's good. Exchange, and we'll say, hey, it's outsourced to a third-party exchange provider or to Office 365. So again, we usually see decent scores. If it's an existing client, you'd hope that they're not scoring too poorly, right? So now that we've filled out the quadrant here, we've scored a 77. Now, we did a lot of talking, but we probably could have filled this out in just minutes, Mike, because if it's your client, you kind of know the state that they're in. Every once in a while, I've got to cross-check and say, hey, did we sell them a Meraki or something? I might have to look, but for the most part, you can fill this out pretty quickly. They've got a 77. Now, maybe you feel like, that's kind of low. Maybe what I want to do is the one question we had. Let's make this one instead of a 3. Let's make it a 5. So it bumps us up to a 79. Now, someone might feel like, well, you're being deceitful. I mean, the end result is we're trying to get them to replace some workstations out of warranty. I don't feel like I'm deceiving anybody if I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to sell a failover circuit, which is good if the cloud, if they're using cloud. So I don't feel bad. I'm not going to make any apologies for trying to sell that. And I'm trying to get a better wireless access point in, right? That has greater throughput and greater security. So even though maybe we're dialing that number, the score up or down a little bit, I don't feel bad that what I'm really trying to do is improve their environment, right? So I hope that comes off the right way, Mike. But you can, adjust what the overall score is based on whatever you do with the weighting. If we save the category, what this will do is now bring us back to the main screen. Now we could work on the other quadrants. Now I did say, hey, let's go back and let's see how we can edit the summary statements, because we did get that question. So if you come into here on the main menu, summary statements, and we go to infrastructure, and we go into what was the one I made it? Oh, I was on the failover. We go into that one. We can now see that the statements are in here. And the one that I added, which is failover circuit is available but has not been procured. We have the ability to go in. If it hasn't been used, you can click on it and you could actually edit it at that time. So if you knew you made a typo after you put it in there, just remove it from that audit, go back in and you can edit it. Right? Once it's used in an audit, however, we won't let you change it, because what it would do is it would change it in all the audits. That would be bad. It would be good for typos, but if you had some information here on reports that was actually accurate and we let you change it, that could cause a problem. Our programmer is actually working on a way to allow you to edit it right at the time that you type it in, because believe me, I've been tripped up by this too, and it is an irritant in the system. So I'll admit we could do a better job here. What you can do though, if you've already used it and there's a problem, is you can just turn it off. If you turn it off, it won't show in the pick lists anymore. I'll leave it turned on. But you do have the ability to come in here, also add custom ones on the fly, and you can edit them that way. So let's go back to the audit trail, and let's go down to our QBR client 1. Click on audit trail here. All right, so here's the information. We can now see the thumbnail is showing that we've completed that quadrant. The overall audit is still incomplete. I'm going to come back in here, and I'm simply going to hit edit. So we're going to go a little bit faster now through the other two quadrants, mainly because I think we made most of the points here. So I'm going to say summary statements, and to be honest, a lot of times I go pretty quickly in this, right? Internet security appliance, yep, got a good one. Antivirus, of course we're pushing antivirus out there. Anti-spam, yep, we use AppRiver. Two-factor authentication, hey, maybe the client hasn't used that yet. This is something that we regularly push on our cloud. About half of our clients use it, about half don't. Sometimes they're using it for just a few people, but not for all. So I'm gonna pick that answer, because that's actually that's usual. We'll see them say, we'll turn it on for these 5 executives, but everybody else won't use it. Physical security. Let's go in and say, hey, you know what? There's no servers, or we'll say the servers in a data center. How about that? Manage DNS. I harped on that one before. I'm going to make that one red, because, hey, I want to sell them open DNS. That's what's going to help prevent the ransomware. Single sign-on. You know what? I don't really care about single sign-on. It's for this client. So we're going to take that off. And I'll say endpoint encryption, right? That's something that I'm always trying to sell to the clients. So I'm going to say, hey, it's not in use. VPN, we're going to say I'll say site is available. And email encryption, we'll say that it is in use for all users, and we're going to be using the AppRiver Cipher post. Okay, so a couple things on here that maybe we need to improve upon. Save that one. And now we go to the last section, manage support and services. Now this one should be easy. If you're an MSP, you should pretty much be, have all green in here. However, sometimes, we do see that maybe, you have a client that you're not, including on-site support. Maybe, it just includes help desk. I'm going to move this around. I kind of like to have both the supports next to each other. So I'm going to say, yep, on-site's included. If somebody says, well, we don't include on-site, we're just billing against block hours, maybe show that as yellow, or if it's not included at all, maybe red. because maybe you're trying to move them up to an all-you-can-eat plan, right? So
I
maybe you
want to,
have like a
and can you freeze on that for a moment and say, I want to add something here, like, because somebody may look at this, go, oh, they're going to see yellow or red, and they're going to think we're not doing our job. Well, let's take a look at the yellow, right? Your two choices are needs improvement, on-site support is billed against blocks of hours. I mean, you could just you could change this, make it custom and say, customer did not want, right? Like you should, if you're working with them any length of time and you're doing a great job, red and yellow is not going to reflect negatively on you. You're not going to put something in here, go, man, we haven't been doing our job, so this is red. We've tried to get you to do this here. We think it's in your best interest to do this, and that's why it's become such a great tool for upselling and cross-selling. And getting back to that again, is the result is not to go in there and get money from them. That's not the end. That's something that happens naturally.
Yeah, that's a byproduct.
A byproduct, exactly. The goal is to show them how great of service they're getting, the truth, that they're getting the service they're paying for, that they're getting value, and so that they understand what you're doing. Because if you have a client, you can be doing a great job. If they do not understand what you're doing, that's a wedge that can be exploited. They're going to start asking other people, I'm using these guys, I have no idea if I'm getting what I pay for.
Yep. I have a story from years ago, Mike, and it still haunts me, right? We had a client, they were on a plan that only included help desk. It did not include on-site. And I thought everything was pretty good with the client. We were not doing regular Qbr'S, and I certainly didn't have this tool. And the client told me, they emailed us and said, we want to give you our 30 days, notice. They were out of contract, and I hadn't yet gotten to them. And again, this was back in the day where I just didn't do a good job at quarterly business reviews. And basically what they said was that, there was somebody that had been picking away at them for years, and they were happy with what we did. They were paying a bunch of money, that they weren't thrilled about what they spent, but they kind of accepted it. But the other MSP, what they said, we'll include on-site support. And it killed me, because I was like, well, if you told me about it, maybe I could have included that too. Like if I had known about it, and if every quarter I sat down with them and showed them, hey, on-site's not included. Maybe if it was yellow, maybe they would have said to me, well, how much would it be if we included it, right? And I could have had that conversation hopefully before somebody else came in there and knocked me out by just saying, well, we'll throw that in, right? So again, the more egregious thing I believe is not showing them the areas of deficiency, even if they are your client, right? You can't hide it. Because when something happens, you're going to get blamed for it. They're going to say, I don't remember you told me that I should have had, email encryption.
Right.
They'll wait until one of their clients' data gets out there, and then they say, well, we need email encryption. I don't know why you didn't sell it to me before. So this way, I'm not embarrassed to go in there and say, hey, you scored a 78. You didn't score 100. There's some things we need to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll say the other side of it, because I run a marketing company, and we do a lot of things in my company change because we're a slave to Google, right? Google, and you technology same way, but Google, something that works in search today, Google may take it out, or it may change, and you're always staying on top of those things. So I've realized, I've looked at some of my clients in the services that I offer and said, you know what, we're not doing this, and we should be doing this. Shame on us for not doing it 6 months ago. And I've taken it to the client and said, listen, this is something that's changed. We're going to change it for you. We should have made this change a couple months ago, but we caught it, and we're gonna kind of fallen on the sword a little bit. And never ever has that gotten me fired. In fact, it's been the complete opposite. People are so grateful, and they understand you missed something somewhere, but there's no downside really to that.
Right. All right, so let's jump in here because we want to get to the report. So I'm going to go through this. My clients, almost every one of them is on all you can eat. So I am going to show we have that. Of course, we're doing monitoring. And you see how I'm going through this. I'm going quickly, but you got to remember something, that if you have your clients mostly where you want them to be, these answers are pretty much going to be the same for all these different quarterly business reviews, even for some prospects when you run them on. So even though it looks like, oh, it's manual, I've got to put the data in, it's actually pretty quick to run through this. Insurance, I use this all the time to call out other vendors, showing them that, hey, You know, does your current IT company have E&O insurance? And I kind of stir the pot up. Here, let's just come into this and let's just say E&O policy is in force, along with cyber security policy. All right, so we'll make that green. Hey, we'll show that in the pick list. You know, policy is in force along with cyber security policy. Boom. Let's create that. Put that into the system here. Windows updates. Of course, we're going to be doing those. Virtual CIO services. Yep, we include those. Proactive maintenance. Definitely. Mobile device management. So this is one, Mike, you know, that we regularly run into today. Not everybody does it. You know, sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. In this case, I'm going to make a big deal out of this. I'm going to say that's red because it's pretty important. Vendor management, yep, we do that too. So usually when we have existing clients, usually, you know, the managed services quadrant looks pretty good. So I'm going to save that. All right. And now, once we've done this, what we now have is a calculated audit score of an 80. This is based on the 3 quadrants, right? It doesn't include telecom. And it's based on our weighting and the scoring that we talked about. Green is 100, red is 0, and yellow is a 50. And then, of course, it's weighted, so it skews it one way or the other. We have our individual category scores. We'll talk real quick about it here, and I'll show it to you on the report. You know, we're showing, hey, you know, on a current spend of $2,200 a month, you got an 80, right? On straight line extrapolation, to move this to 100 on a straight line, you'd be spending somewhere around $2,750 per month. Now, it's not an exact number. It's not like that's exactly what you'd spend, but the point is that in order to put in managed DNS, 2-factor authentication, endpoint encryption, mobile device management, you got to spend more than you're currently spending, right? So I hope that makes sense, right, Mike? Because you know you're at a certain price point. These are services. You'll spend more money, but at least you're showing the client that, hey, you know, you're paying this. You got to spend a little bit more. You know, on a straight line, it'd be to $2,750. If you're interested, I can give you an exact quote.
Sure. So yeah, you're basically telling them this is an approximation. We can get you a quote if this is something that's important to you, or which it
exactly.
should be.
So, you know, we've taken like 50 minutes now almost to, you know, to talk through this, but if we weren't gabbing here, I would venture to guess that we probably could have filled this out within 10 minutes, right? I mean, maybe I had to go and pull up the warranty master report real quick to take a peek. Maybe I double check, you know, hey, are they using managed wireless or not? I can't remember. But for the most part, they're your existing clients, right? So again, getting back to our original point, if you are testing this out, and on the call, then what I would, you know, urge you to do is use this for your next QBR. If you're on the call, you're a veteran, been using the product, you should definitely be using this in your QBR process because it only makes it stronger. But this is, you know, kind of where we wind up. 10 minutes or so, you should be done with this. Now, this is sort of where the beauty of it comes into place because for me, you know, I would have that QBR, and the next thing was, all right, how do I package all this stuff up? I had all this data. I report some lab tech and some junk I can spit out of ConnectWise about tickets that warranty master report. What the heck do I do to package this up? How do I upsell this? Do I bring proposal? Like, what do I do? So with this system now, this is what I love. I click on print report. I get some options. Since there's only a single QBR, we don't have any comparative options. I can choose, do I want the infographics or not? I like everything. So I'm just going to say generate report. In like literally a second, here's your report. Mike, I can't, you know, I know you're not an MSP. I can't tell you how long it used to take me to put these things together, especially if it was for a prospect. It used to kill me. And I hated it. And this was probably the number one reason why I probably didn't do QBRs because it took so long to package this stuff up. So now I have this report. It's totally branded, has my logo. It's prepared for the client. This tells them what we have here. So I leave this with the client. I'm hoping that at some point, maybe they read through this, right? They go, wow, this is pretty cool. I understand what's here. We tell them, you know, what it is. Hey, this is the base plan. It's our first one. Here's the description that we typed in, carry straight through so they can see clearly it's their quarter 2, 2017 QBR. And here's a summary impact page. And the first time I started using this in Qbr'S with a client, the client will automatically go, hey, what's with the red and yellow, right? My clients never walked in, or when I walked in, my clients never said to me, hey, you have anything to sell me and any of my deficiencies? But that's essentially what they're saying here, right?
Yeah.
They're basically like, what is this? Oh, I'm glad you asked, because I'm about to tell you, right? But before we go further, let me just remind you, this is sort of an overview of your IT. We audited, 27 different areas. There's a couple things I think we can improve upon. Our goal is always to get you to a 100 or to get you as close there as we can. Not everybody's at 100, but we have a little bit of room to grow, right? You're currently paying us $2,200 per month. And, we estimate, you might have to spend another, $550 in that range. Maybe not exactly, but you got to spend a little more in order to get that score up, right? So I'm setting the stage right now, Mike, to have that money talk at the end, right? Because none of this stuff's free. Like, I don't work for free. You don't work for free. And, the client wants what's best for them and they want the best price. But, hey, there's some things that are wrong here.
And there's some psychology that's going on the page that number one, the red and the yellow and the green is so universally obvious. What's wrong? Why is it red? But also that score of 80 is what? That's a B minus.
Right.
Okay. Do you want to graduate with a B minus or do you want to graduate valedictorian? And there is a psychology. People are competitive and they want to be the best.
Yep.
I hired you to get I should be an A plus. I should be a 100. And this opens the door for a very simple conversation. It's not saying, you're not saying here, okay, here's all the things we're doing bad for you. But here's the things where remember we talked about this security. You didn't want it, and we think you should have it.
Right. So now I go to the next page because they asked me what's that red and yellow, and like you said, it's universally accepted. Like no one ever says to me, can you explain to me what red means? They all know that's pretty crappy. And in case they really forgot, we tell them down here. But we get here, and then I say, hey, here's some detail. Let me show you exactly where we're at today. I tell them straight up. I said, look, we're not gonna spend a lot of time on the green. Most of it's green. We're doing pretty good here. We'll review real quickly, but I want to focus on some of the areas of deficiency. So they say, okay. I might say, hey, you know what? Server's in good shape. We replaced it last year. It's running well. We're monitoring, maintaining. There's nothing there. And they go, oh, okay, great. Now, please resist the urge to take out your 50 pages of data that you've gotten from whatever system you're using to monitor. Don't show that to them. Don't put that in front of them. Recommend they review it on their own time. Just leave it off the table. I'm telling you, they don't care about that stuff. All right. Workstations. Let me show you this other report that I brought with me, and I print, this out, right? We already talked about having this. Oh, it's actually here. And I go through this, right? So we're gonna talk with this particular client. We're gonna talk about all these computers that are out of warranty and what I think that impact is. I think we should replace these 10. And what I would do is I always bring a proposal with me because they always say, well, how much does it cost, right? So I always bring a proposal, but I leave it in my folder. I don't take that out. I'm not trying to sell stuff right now. I'm setting the stage to sell at the end. So at this point, I would go through this report, and then I jump back to here. Then we're going to breeze through business continuity. We're going to talk about managed wireless. On my proposal, I'm going to have that access point on there, right? Whatever the cost is going to be on my proposal. Again, I'm not going to show it to them, but we're going to talk about it, why I think it's important. We're going to harp on the WAN redundancy thing again. We're going to go to the next section. We're going to go through exactly the same things. Open DNS, endpoint encryption. Here's why it's important. Don't forget I talked about two-factor, and we do this over here. Hey, you really should get some mobile device management going. We've had a bunch of clients, they've lost some devices, and so at the end here, we've got these infographics. And what I like to say to them is, listen, I know that we talked about a lot of things today, and it might be somewhat confusing. This report has information on a lot of the areas that you're deficient in. So on your own time, if you want to peruse through this, at a minimum, we're just going to remind you why this is important, right? So if they forgot why I told them why endpoint encryption is important or why mobile device management is important, they have the information here, right? They also see what their score was. That was a red under security, this was a red under security. So they can kind of see, where they're at. And then usually what happens at this point is, I start to transition to my close. Again, it's a QBR, but I'm there to try to, upsell some things, which is good for them. Usually, we transition over to that proposal, and many times they'll say, all right, I'll tell you what I want to do. Let's replace 5 workstations. Let's get that access point. I'm not ready for the failover circuit yet. And you know what? I want to think about some of the other ones. All right, great. So then I take my proposal. Usually I circle the ones that they want. I go back, I revise it, I send it to them electronically, I get them to approve it, and I made a sale. Now, for the next time, I'm going to do a QBR. I go back to now my audit trail. And what I will do is I'll go to that particular client. And I come in here and I say, I want to clone it as a QBR plan, right? Because I want to do the next QBR. So now it's Q3. And what it did is it cloned it and it put it under the section called quarterly business reviews. And now what I can do, Mike, is I come in here and now it's, the next quarter, it's time to sit down with them again. And this is how easy it is now to do the next QBR. I come in here, I say, hey, it's Q3. And yeah, I look at say, oh, now they're spending $2,400 a month. And I save that. And we come down here into the, to do the editing. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I think I said, hey, they bought the managed wireless, they got the access point, right? So we're gonna come in here and that's gonna turn green now. That's good. Workstations, we replaced a couple, but I think we still have a bunch more. They said no to the failover. I'm not gonna ignore the failover though, right? But in the past, I never would bring it back up until probably their primary internet went down, and then they call me in a crisis, and then they decide, let's get that failover. Right now, I'm still dinging them for not doing that, right? In here, we said that they did do the managed DNS, so we sold them that.
The QBR takes a little bit of time to set up, and we're coming on an hour, and it took maybe 45 minutes for you to do it, and we were talking through it. So I'm really,
yep.
If you got the data and you know your client, it's going to take you 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But now you're just taking that one, you're cloning it for the next quarter, and you're just tweaking a few things. I mean, this is minutes now.
Yeah. And so now here's what I do. So yeah, I mean, it takes minutes, literally. You just go back and say, hey, what did I change? What are they spending? And now I come in here and say, okay, time to do the next quarterly business review report. Except for this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a comparative analysis, right? And I'm going to say, yeah, I want to do, the report for Q3. I want to compare it to Q2. Let's generate that one. And then we're going to speed through this real quick. But, now I have a report for Q3. Right? So now we come through here and there's less red and yellow, but there's still some, right? Scores an 85. We talk about the workstations for the next quarter. We harp on the WAN redundancy again, let them tell us they don't want to do it, but we still told them about it. We tell them about 2-factor endpoint encryption and mobile device management. We've got our infographics, right, for our deficiencies. And then I say, yeah, and here, this was last quarter, right? So, this is where you're at. And then we get all the way to the bottom and I show them the improvement. Hey, last quarter we were at an 80, this quarter we're at an 85. Is there anything you think you might want to do? And you can see that, that box has turned green. This one over here has turned green. So we have a market improvement over the last one. And we just continue down the line. The next quarter, we simply come into the system again. We go back to our audit trail. Back to the client, and we would clone this again, and we just carry on. And then what we wind up seeing here is an audit trail of audits, right? And then what we're working on again with our QBR calendar and some of the reporting is to put a nice report together that kind of summarizes all this. It'd be nice to be able to show trending, over time, hey, this is the date that these were run, and this were your scores, and just show the client what a great job you're doing. And I'll leave you with one last thought, Mike, and then if we have any lingering questions, we'll answer those and we can jump off. Is I tell people you're going to want to run this on your clients before somebody else runs it on as a prospect, right? Because think about what I'm doing. I'm an MSP, right? So Two River Tech is essentially, I'm one of the individuals on this call right now. Now I'm not going after anybody's business, of course, but I do have my own territory, kind of like what ConnectWise has in Tampa, and I am calling on prospects all day long, and many of them have an IT provider, and I am running audits on them, and I am suggesting that prospect give this report to their current IT guy and ask them why their score is lower than where it should be. Now, usually when I do this on a prospect, the score is like in the 50 to, or lower, right? And I let the current IT guy start to scramble and tell him, well, I didn't think you wanted wireless, and you said no to failover, and I let them kind of be on the hot seat. And we drive a wedge in there. We end up getting a lot of business because the prospect says to us, wow, we never had anybody show it to us this way, including our current IT guy, right? So I guess my challenge is you should run this on your clients before somebody else ends up prospecting and giving them an audit report, and you end up on the receiving end of this thing. You'll kick yourself if you had access to the system, you didn't use it. So that's my parting thought, Mike. I think that it's easy to use this for QBRs. You don't need data collection tools. You already know the client. Once you use it once, it's really easy to use it the next quarter, and it helps keep you on track. You'll definitely sell more stuff. And if you're one of the few people that's wondering how you pay for the system, this is how you do it, right? You sell some more stuff, make some more money, the system pays for itself. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox. Any other questions, Mike, or do you have any other comments? And if not, we'll wrap it up.
No, I think you answered one of the questions. Somebody had asked if you can change the colors from red to yellow. I think that person meant what you just showed in the QBR, but they haven't responded back, so I think that question is closed. So we'll stay on for a couple more minutes if y'all have questions. So go ahead and start typing if you've got questions. Yeah, and I will say, just as dealing with people, when you sign up for audit, if you're on a trial or you've been through the trial, you get emails from me like just about every day. Well, yeah, every day for 15 days. And that's on purpose. My goal is to get you guys using it. So I send you, and we put you in an automated system where you get frequently asked type questions answered every day. And they're designed to kind of give you ideas, motivate you to get back in. Hopefully you'll see maybe email on day 5 and go, oh, I didn't know we could do that with audit, and you'll jump in and use it. So that's the motivation behind that sequence. But what happens is a lot of times somebody emails me during that trial period and they go, hey, I've got a prospect tomorrow. Can you help me? I've been on the trial, but I haven't done anything with it. And now it's day 10 and I've got a prospect in the morning. And that's a tough one. Now we're trying to scramble at 7 o'clock at night to help walk somebody through setting up audit, getting that data in there. And you don't want to go with a sales presentation that you haven't really given yourself time to prepare. You want to put your best foot forward. But with your current client, you start with your number one client and run an audit. You've got all the data. You know the data. It's all there. Go grab it and experiment on that. Even if you're not going to do the QBR for the client, just run it to see to get used to running the report. Because if you run 1 or 2 or 3 audits using this process, doing it even with bogus data, by the time you do get a prospect, you're going to be an expert at it. It's not a very difficult system to use, but like anything else, there's just a slight learning curve, right? Like you just have to get used to, we have a very strict format on the image, for example. So sometimes people go to upload the image and it gets rejected because your image isn't sized right. And we have a solution, right? We tell people, if you can't upload your image, put a support help ticket in, and we will size it for you. And then we send it back to you. But that could take a few hours. So you really, really want to do this stuff in a practice scenario. And I just think, you really, 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 really should be doing this with your current clients, because you will wow them. Number one, you will prove your value to them. You will protect them from anybody else who's going to try and drive a wedge. And there are, whether you know it or not, there are always people out there trying to get your clients away from you. So you need to build a fence around them. And that's a great way to do it. Not to mention, let's say you got 20 clients and you sit down with 20 clients and do this. I am willing to guess that a couple of them are going to go, this is amazing. Nobody's ever reported the data like this. Nobody's ever shown it to us like this. And I was just talking to another business owner, friend of mine, who was just complaining about all this confusing data he was getting. Would you do it for him? Do you do it for people who aren't your clients? And your answer will be absolutely. And you'll go in and win a new prospect. You'll win a new client. So
right.
We do have a couple of questions coming in. So keep them coming, guys. How much is the system? That's an easy one. Frank, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We're selling the full package, the whole system for $197 a month right now. So what you saw here, all the things we'll be adding, all will be part of that system. The website shows some higher pricing. The prices will go up at some point, but right now it's all for $197. You can lock that in forever. If you happen to be an ASCII member, it's 15% off. So it's actually $167 for ASCII members. So if you are an ASCII member, we'll verify that. We'll give you a coupon code, and it's $197 per month, or $167 per month. I'm sorry, with the discount.
Okay, so really simple, guys. I mean, it's again, this tool pays for itself. So I tell people when people ask me how much it is, it's free. It really is. It's going to generate revenue for you. So Keith is asking, and Keith must have, I'm reading this, Keith might have missed this. I know some people jumped on late, so it's worth asking this again. So I'm going to ask it again and let you answer it again, Frank. I just found out about Audit last week. Based on this webinar, my understanding of Audit is that it provides you a way to present the data to a client or prospect in a clear and concise way. Yes, it does. Does Audit have discovery tools built in, or are you using other discovery tools to find the data and then package it into Audit?
Yeah, so we don't do any of the discovery for you. Our feeling was there's a lot of great tools out there on the market already, and we weren't interested in trying to build a better mousetrap in that fashion. Our goal was to give you a tool that would allow you to present your findings in a way that would position you the best to make a sale, whether it's with a client or hopefully with a prospect and get some new business. So we're not gathering the data at all. This is purely a presentation tool that you'll use to you analyze that data yourself, kind of act like a doctor. You read through that 50-page radiology report, and when your client or patient comes in, you deliver a bottom line there. But it's up to you to do the analysis and then to come up with that summary statement for yourself.
Right on. How many users, customers does that include?
It's unlimited number of auditees, which means you can run it on as many clients and prospects as you want. The current configuration will give you up to 5 auditors, which means up to 5 people within your organization can use it to run audits. I don't know that we've had anybody exceed the number of 5, but I don't see why we wouldn't work with you if you needed a couple more.
Yeah, one of the things about this, we're coming on, I think it's a year since we launched, Frank. Is that correct? We're on our year anniversary.
Yeah, May will be a year.
Exactly. Right. So this is a new, this platform's in its infancy, right? And one of the things that's happened, one of the dynamics that's happened, we had kind of a roadmap for what we wanted this tool to be. And our clients have been telling us they want things that we didn't anticipate, which is really, really cool. So for the past year, we've been building things into this based on not what our roadmap was, what we thought we wanted the tool to be, but what you guys wanted the tool to be. And I like the whole story of Instagram is one of my favorite stories, right? Like Instagram started out not as and everybody, I'm sure you guys know what Instagram is. If not, it's a social media platform that Facebook bought a couple of years ago that is a image social media tool. Instagram was not that when it started. It was a location-based thing like Foursquare, and they were not doing so well. But what they did is they went in and they looked at how their users were using the system, and they realized that the biggest use of the system was for images. People were sharing images on the system, so they went all in on images. And I think $2 billion later, when Facebook bought them, they're pretty happy with the fact that they did that. So that's kind of the model we've been following, and Audit's going in a whole new direction, really based on your input and what you guys want and need.
Right. Well, I brought up the testimonial page on our Audit website, and I wanted to just kind of end on this. This for me was particularly rewarding because you have to remember I developed this tool for myself as an MSP because I was struggling as a techie trying to sell more easily. I was just trying to solve a problem for myself. And I came up with it, and it seemed really pretty simplistic, but it worked. And I was pleasantly surprised by the results. To be honest, I didn't think it was really going to work much. I just figured I'd feel good that I tried at least. And some of my peers in one of my peer groups asked me where I got a report. They saw it. I think I had it with me at one of my meetings, and I told them, well, it was a system that I kind of created for myself, and it was kind of rudimentary at the time. And we were encouraged to create the system for other, so other people could use it, which we did, of course. That's our story here. But it's very rewarding when I see all these people getting the same results I got, because it's validation that this really works, right? It's not just like some crazy idea that I came up with. It works for me because of X, Y, and Z reasons. This works for people who follow the process and actually use it and believe in it. It works really, really well. It's simple, it's succinct, and it helps you sell. There's a lot of people that have given us testimonials. This is only a small subset, because I think we get testimonials pretty much every week. But people are using it and doing really well with it. So if you haven't used it, jump on the 15-day free trial. Mike said it's free. It truly is free for 15 days. If you sell something, it could be free forever, because you'll have made some money to pay for the system. I see there is one last question here, Mike. Can you restrict the 5 auditors to only see their audits? Right now, that answer is no, but it's on our roadmap. That's been asked by another company as well. They wanted to kind of restrict within their organization, so only certain people could see certain audits. Right now, it's open, but we are going to add the ability within your company to restrict it. So if you have certain people within your company and you want to keep stuff separate, we'll be able to do that. But right now, it is open.
Yeah, I will say that you guys are going to be very, very excited with changes that you're going to see this next year, and we're committed to making this tool the best tool that you're ever going to use. So yeah, stay tuned, because lots of really, really cool things are coming. And lastly, I will say also that if we would love to put your words up here. If you've got a success story, if something's happened, we love seeing that. We'd love to showcase what you're doing. So if you got any feedback, please share it with us. We'd love to know what you're doing with it and how you're doing with it. And we're always here for you guys for anything.
Cool. Well, Mike, thanks for moderating this. I think, I hope that this was a informative webinar for a lot of people who've been asking us about Qbr'S, and we'd love to hear feedback. If you guys use this and have some positive results, reach out to us and let us know about it. And we'd be happy to discuss any other questions that you might have. Just shoot us an email or reach out to support. So thanks everybody for taking the time. I know we're a little bit over, but there were some good questions at the end there. Thank you, Mike. And we'll see you next Thursday on another webinar.
Have a great day, everybody.